GHBP, say that fast 10 times. GHBP, 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 so GHBP, so growth hormone binding protein, or GHPH, or GHBP, GHBP. Hello all my fit friends, welcome back to WOWbodyNOW. This is episode 5 in my Bikini Prep vlog series, and today we are going to chit-chat about intermittent fasting. So if you're like me, you have two main goals. You're trying to build muscle and shed a little excess fat to show off those muscles. So if that's you, you are in the right place, because intermittent fasting could be a tool that you're going to use. And I'm going to explain exactly what intermittent fasting is, who it's for and who it may not be for, what are some of the most important benefits, and what research and science has to say about all that. And then I'm going to explain exactly how I am implementing intermittent fasting to help me get stage ready for my very first bikini show. So if that sounds good to you, just keep on watching. So, as we're watching the video, if you really like what you're hearing and you want to hear more or you have questions, you can comment below and let me know. I will definitely try to get back to them. And give me a thumbs up if you like learning about intermittent fasting and want to learn more about it, okay? All right. Intermittent fasting is an eating strategy, not necessarily a diet, but more of an eating strategy that revolves around periods of fasting or not consuming any calories, and then periods of eating or refeeding. So the idea and theory around intermittent fasting is that spending time in that fasted state forces the body to use stored fat for fuel, hence lowering your body fat percentage. Yeah! Intermittent fasting doesn't label foods good or bad. It doesn't really restrict any foods. But that being said, the general rules of good nutrition and weight loss still definitely apply with intermittent fasting. That is, what you're eating and how much you're eating of it are the two most important factors in determining your body weight, your body composition, and your overall health. Got it? So, who might be good candidates to practice intermittent fasting? First of all, the average person with no pre-existing conditions that just wants to shed excess body fat, it could be for you. Also, if you happen to be a person that has a very sedentary job where you're sitting and not moving for most of the day, maybe you're behind a desk, it might be good for you since you don't require tons of calories for a bulk of your day when you're working. Also, if you're somebody who is super busy or somebody who just in general wants to reduce meal prep time or simplify their diet, it could also be a good solution for you. Now, there's some people that might want to do some extra research, extra questions with your doctor or registered dietitian before implementing intermittent fasting. That being said, I encourage everyone to consult your doctor or your dietitian before starting intermittent fasting, but these people especially. So obviously, if you have a pre-existing condition, diabetes, heart disease, if you're pregnant or nursing, intermittent fasting probably isn't for you. Also, if you are prone to having an unhealthy relationship with food and prone to disordered habits around food or eating disorders, intermittent fasting is tricky and it might exacerbate those, so you want to be extra cautious. If you are somebody who has a very active job that keeps you up and moving around for a majority of the day, intermittent fasting might not be for you, because you might end up super hangry all the time and really feel lethargic and low on energy. So it might not be for you if you have a very active job too. And lastly, if you are a hard gainer, somebody who it is extremely hard to gain weight and build muscle, intermittent fasting probably isn't the best strategy for you either. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why in just a second. So how do you implement intermittent fasting? There's a couple of different ways that can be categorized either into daily fasting or alternate day fasting. Daily fasting has 4 general parameters that you can follow. You can do the 12-12 eating cycle, where there's 12 hours of fasting and then 12 hours of eating or refeeding. And to tell you the truth, many people, without even knowing it, just naturally fall into that, okay? You also have the 16-8, 16 hours fasted with an 8-hour eating period. Then you have the 24 with 20 hours fasted and then a 4-hour eating period. And then some people even do full 24-hour fasts on a daily basis. Those are hardcore people. Now, you can also follow alternate day intermittent fasting, which has shown better results for bodybuilders or people who are trying to maintain and build muscle. So what that is you have every other day, or sometimes you might do every 3rd day of fasting. So you have a normal day of eating normally, regularly, nothing changes. And then the next day, you're only going to eat about 1/5 of the calories that you would normally consume during your fasted day. So if you are somebody who normally eats 2,000 calories, on your refeed day, on your normal day, you're eating those 2,000 calories. Now 1/5 of 2,000 is 400 calories. So the next day when you're fasting, you're only going to consume 400 calories. And then you would do your refeed day and then your fasted day. Not too complicated, right? So let's talk about the benefits of intermittent fasting and what scientists and research says about these benefits. Now, there are a ton. There's a whole list of purported benefits that go along with intermittent fasting. But I'm not going to talk about all of them, because for the purpose of this video, as somebody who wants to shed fat and build muscle, those are my 2 main goals. As somebody who is a bodybuilder trying to prep for a show, really just 3 of those benefits stick out to me. And we're going to talk about those 3 and what science has to say about those 3 benefits and why. So there is a ton of research out there, and I tried to find the most current research, and whenever possible, I tried to find research that was actually done with human trials and not necessarily rats or monkeys. So it wasn't always possible, but I tried to do that for you. So the first benefit that I am super interested in is obviously the fact that intermittent fasting has been proven to help people shed body fat. So this study, published in 2016, set out to better understand what biological mechanisms actually help with weight loss and body fat reduction during intermittent fasting, or IMF. So if I say IMF, it means intermittent fasting. So the researchers tested obese male mice that followed an alternate day intermittent fasting protocol versus other rats that just had an unrestricted high-fat diet. After 4 weeks, the mice that practiced IMF had 13 to 18% lower body weights and 40 to 52% lower body fat than the mice who had an unrestricted high-fat diet. Now, there were 2 different kinds of mice or intermittent fasting. Some of the mice did the intermittent fasting, and then when they did eat, they followed a low-fat diet. And then other mice, they did the intermittent fasting, and when they eat, they followed a higher fat diet. And something peculiar happened. The mice that did the intermittent fasting and the low-fat diet actually gained lean muscle mass, and they're not quite sure why. They're wondering if when they were fattening up the mice, they actually lost some muscle mass, and then they actually just regained it back, so that the net muscle gain was 0, even though they're not quite sure why. And really, there is no other research where this has happened. The research with IMF either shows that you maintain the muscle mass, and a lot of it shows that you actually lose a little bit of muscle mass when you do intermittent fasting. So while there is plenty of research confirming that intermittent fasting is an awesome way to shed extra body fat, there is not enough research to say 100% or even a little bit percent, that it's possible to gain and build muscle on intermittent fasting. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. The second benefit that I am very interested in is the fact that intermittent fasting can help increase insulin sensitivity. So let's talk about insulin. Insulin is the hormone in your body that regulates blood glucose levels and whether you utilize blood glucose for energy or store it away as fat. Every time we eat, the pancreas releases insulin, which triggers muscle, fat, and liver cells to absorb glucose from the bloodstream and burn it off as energy. On the flip side, if there's extra blood glucose, then insulin helps the body store it away, oftentimes as fat, for later. Insulin sensitivity refers to how well your body responds to insulin. You want to be insulin sensitive. A person with good insulin sensitivity will require smaller amounts of insulin to lower blood glucose levels. And lower blood sugar levels or blood glucose levels means less sugar available to store as fat. Low insulin sensitivity is when your body does not respond properly to insulin, and so when it's secreted, your body doesn't respond, and so your pancreas starts to pump out more and more insulin. Eventually, your body can't keep up with this, and so your blood sugar levels remain elevated, which isn't good, right? It's going to mean that you're storing more blood sugar away as fat, and it could even lead to metabolic conditions such as diabetes. So the fact that intermittent fasting has been proven to increase insulin sensitivity is just another awesome benefit that you want to grab to help you ensure that you are shedding fat and that your body is using the glucose available properly to help you build muscle, right? So in this 2005 study, they tested the effects of intermittent fasting and refeeding on insulin action in healthy men. The study participants did a 20-hour fast every second day for 15 days. The experiment found that intermittent fasting does in fact increase insulin-mediated glucose uptake rates. In other words, it did increase insulin sensitivity for those men. Awesome, right? So we want to increase our insulin sensitivity. The third and final benefit that I'm focusing on and that I'm super excited about is the fact that several studies have shown that intermittent fasting increases growth hormone secretion. Growth hormone is vital for cell reproduction and regeneration, for your muscles, for your brain, and other vital organs. So it's super important and very vital in helping you build muscle. Several studies have also found that because of the increase in growth hormone, it helps your brain health and can help you with memory and dealing with stress and things like that. Now that in and of itself is an awesome reason to do intermittent fasting. And if brain health is your ideal number one focus right now, intermittent fasting could really help with that. Now, I'm less worried about my brain health right down this moment. My main goal right now is getting stage lean and ready for my show, right? So I'm more interested in building muscle. Unfortunately, like I said below, studies haven't been able to show that you can actually build muscle doing IMF, despite the fact that there is an increase in human growth hormone. And this 2012 study gives us an insight into maybe why. So they tested 7 women and 4 men. All of them fasted for 24 hours, and then their growth hormone and growth hormone binding protein, or GHBP levels, were measured. So growth hormone binding protein, or GHBP, is associated with regulating growth hormone. The study found that while growth hormone levels increased during IMF, there was no discernible change in GHBP. So this may be the limiting reason why, even though you have a higher level of human growth hormone around, there might not be enough of this binding protein to help you actually build muscle. That's the theory. That being said, I will take any increase in my growth hormone that I can, and I still consider it a win as long as I am implementing intermittent fasting in a smart way to spare my muscle. And that's what we're about to talk about next. So this is how I am implementing intermittent fasting. Just so you know, I already do a 24-hour fast the first Sunday of every month, and that's for religious reasons. So already one time a month, I'm doing a full 24-hour fast. And again, that has nothing to do with my body fat goals. That's just religious. But during this prep, every other day, I am following a daily 12-12 protocol. 12 hours of fasted and 12-hour eating period. So why did I choose the 12-12? I did that because according to this research study, 16 hours of fasting leads to the body breaking down amino acids from muscle tissue. In other words, 16 hours of fasting led to muscle being broken down for energy to account for 50% of its energy maintenance. So 50% of the energy used was muscle was being broken down for that, and that's at the 16-hour fasting mark. Then when you got all the way to the 28-hour mark of fasting, 100% of the energy that was being used was coming from a breakdown of muscle. So I know that I want to avoid getting close to 16 hours of fasting because I do not want to start breaking down my muscle. So I'm using the 12-12 cycle for intermittent fasting. And I am doing zero. I am avoiding fasted workouts. Many people who practice intermittent fasting, they say, oh, it's okay as long as you drink your BCAAs. But again, that has not been proven. In fact, studies have shown that if you're consuming BCAAs, in order for them to really work, you need to consume carbohydrates with them. And if you're consuming carbohydrates with your BCAAs, that's kind of breaking your fast anyway. So I am avoiding fasted workouts because I'm trying to spare muscle. So I time my 12 hours of fasting. A bulk of that is while I'm sleeping, and then I fast for a little bit in the morning, and I time it so that I can get my first meal about an hour before I work out. So that way I have fuel in me, it's digesting, I can smash my workout, and then I have the rest of the day, the rest of the 12-hour period to refeed to continue to fuel muscle growth after my workout. Smart, right? So in this way, I'm trying to get the benefits of burning some extra fat during my extended 12-hour fasting period, getting that insulin sensitivity that I want, and hopefully upping my human growth hormone levels just a tad. So that is how I'm doing it, and I think it's pretty dang smart. And I am going to leave you here. So leave a comment below and make sure you're checking in on Monday for our next workout. It is going to be a kettlebell circuit with some abs. So look forward to that. Until then, always remember, no excuses, no regret, just sweat.